Hello everybody, welcome back to the Tin Man's Corner channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey the Tin Man Taylor, and today I'll be reading another chapter out of the North Carolina Ghost and Legends book by Nancy Roberts. And I already looked through this chapter, and it's a shorter one, so I don't have to worry about doing part 1 or 2. So I'm going to switch this over to night vision mode, and let's get to it, shall we? Alright, here we go. The lovely Apparition. And it's got like a little sentence right here that says, beautiful Linda haunts the highway, pleading for help, and no mortal man can help her, though many have tried. Now that sounds terrible and sad at the same time. You saw a lady in distress, you would help her, right? Anyway, there are a few men who do not hold within them some experience which time cannot erase. For some men, that experience is a woman, and for Burke Hardison, it will always be Linda. Nor is he the only man who has encountered her since 1923. Man, that's a long time ago, but anyway, very long time ago. Shoot, I just realized something. It's 2023 now, so it's like 100 years ago. Anyway, just thought I'd let you know. But anyway, this young lady has appeared from time to time at her favorite spot. Men who have tried to help her have all told the same story afterwards. The story has been one of complete bewilderment and mystery. Burke Hardison met Linda late one rainy night. In the early spring of 1924, he was on his way back from Raleigh to his home in High Point. The evening had been spent with friends made during his college years at State. It must have been almost 2 o'clock as he neared the little community of Jamestown. All around him, the countryside slumbered under a billowing blanket of fog. Now that sounds like a peaceful setting, don't it? Even the most obvious landmarks had silently vanished, and there was an air of unreality about the misty world through which he drove. Along with the air of unreality came the feeling that all other life had ceased to exist save himself. For miles there had been no other cars, but his eyes, still strained as he peered through the mist for tail lights ahead. In front of him loomed the Highway 70 underpass. For a moment the fog seemed to clear. He was no longer alone. At the mouth of the underpass stood the slight, graceful figure of a girl. Dressed in a white evening gown, she flung her arm upward, signaling desperately for help to stop. And like I said earlier, if somebody needs help, you see what you can do to help them. But sometimes there's some paranoid hitchhikers out there that think they can get a free ride and then kill you. But that's a whole different thing. But anyway, even before he pulled to the side of the road, he knew she must be in some terrible distress. She's waving your arm yet. Anyway, he opened the door of the car as she came toward him. Please, will you help me get to High Point? Pleaded a soft-tiered voice. I'm on my way there now, and I'll be glad to help you, replied Burke. A gust of fog entered the car as the girl slid in beside him. He could see the pale blur of a lovely face surrounded by a halo of dark hair, and the diaphanous cloud of her white dress rested on the seat. After she had given him the address of a street he was vaguely familiar with, they drove in silence. Nearing High Point, he felt that he must find out more about her and began to question her. Her name was Linda, and if there was more than that, it faded into the fog. Her words seemed almost detached and so faint that he could hear them above the sound of the motor only with the greatest effort. She seemed deeply distressed at the late hour and afraid her mother would be worried about her. What about her father? Her father would be worried too. I mean, I would if I was a daddy, but anyway. Gradually he gathered that she had been to a dance that evening in Raleigh. But what had happened and how she came to be standing alone in the fog at the underpass, she either could not or would not tell him. At times she failed to answer him at all. "Why do you question me?" she finally asked. "Nothing is important now but that I am going home." So nothing more was said. He found the street she had given him, and there stood the house on the corner just as she had described it. Well, he would not bother her further. I don't know if you can see that picture really good, but there's a portion of the house that was taken along with the ghostly woman in the photo. Boy, that looks strange. You could barely tell in the photo she's kind of doing this. Or something, you know what I mean? Creepy. Anyway, let's continue. Opening his door, he got out and walked around to the other side of the car. Then he held the door open for his young passenger. But as he stared into the blackness of the car's interior, he gasped in amazement. The car was empty, his companion gone, nor was there a sign of anything living being near it. The only movement was that of the fog as it swirled in front of his headlights. For a moment he stood as if dazed. Yeah, I would be too if I didn't see where my passenger went. With his hand still on the door, then such a cold chill swept over him that he slammed the car door and pulled his coat closed around him. Perhaps she had slipped into the house without his seeing her. He knew that he must find out. It was several minutes before his knock was answered. And then it was not Linda who opened the door, but the resemblance was there in the face of an old lady who confronted him. "I'm Bert Hardison. I just brought your daughter home, but she seems to have disappeared. Is she here?" asked Bert. For a moment the old lady didn't answer. He could see the bright shimmer of tears welling into her eyes behind her glasses. And she seemed to crumble before him. "Are you trying to play some cruel joke on me?" she said. His befuddlement turned to anger, and he would have answered harshly, but the tragedy in her face was genuine. He explained how the young girl had stopped him at the underpass and begged him to take her home, and then he told how he arrived at this address only to open the door of the car and find that she had disappeared. "I had an only daughter named Linda," said the old lady. "A year ago she was killed in a wreck near the underpass as she was coming home from a dance." Tears slid helplessly down her cheeks. "This is not the first time people have tried to bring her home, but somehow she never quite gets her." And then down the bottom it says, "And the reports continue year after year from people who've seen her and attempt to deliver her to a house in High Point." So I don't know if that girl is going to ever figure out one day that she is no longer with us on this earth and she needs to go on home, but she thinks she's still alive. Don't you just hate that people just get killed in a car wreck or something and all of a sudden they think they're still alive? You see that all the time on them ghost shows. But anyway, oh, that's going to be it for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those post notifications for more book reading content like this. And I say this has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Corner channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. Sayonara, everybody.